one or two companies to scale everything. So, you know, who knows? There may just be, it's like, what was that Sylvester Stallone movie where there was one restaurant, it was Taco Bell, right? He woke up in the future and, you know, it was one restaurant left. It was Taco Bell. That could be what we're looking at here with Apple.
It could be. It could be. Hey,
although
Jack, how are you
Apple
doing?
Apple did not mention once a single thing about AI in its announcement. So that's interesting.
That is interesting. That is interesting. We'll hear a lot about AI. How are you doing, Jack?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Celeste?
Doing fantastic. Thank you. And how about Jeff? Has Jeff been able to join us? Anyone know? All right. Maybe Adam, you can even give me a message or something if you know what's because we got to get everybody introduced to Jeff. So, but while we're here, let's go ahead and get started because there is a lot going on in the market and it is this kind of up and down movement. We want to find out exactly, you know, how we can look into everything. So let's get started. You know, it's been up and down and we all know it's like, this is such a disconnected market, right? I mean, and there I see Jeff has joined us. Hey, Jeff, how are you doing? And we're going to get Jeff properly introduced here in just a second. He's a new guest for us here on Ask the Pros. So we'll let you go ahead and get unmuted, Jeff, and say hello. Y'all get to see his face. Quite a guy that you're going to get to hear from today. That's what I was telling you a little bit about if you were here before we got started, that have a new guest and that you all are going to be some of the first to get to hear about what he has going on. I think it's both beneficial to you personally in a couple of different ways. We're going to talk about it. But how are you doing, Jeff?
I'm great, Celeste. Thanks for having me.
Okay, good. Thanks. All right. Well, let's go ahead and we'll keep this thing rolling. But yeah, as I was saying, there's a lot of disconnect in the market, right? I mean, you got the bond market saying one thing, you got the Fed people saying another thing, you got the equity market saying thing, you got Apple stock saying things, you got everybody is saying all different types of things. And they're so disconnected. And you kind of feel like, well, what do we believe? What do we do? And, you know, even the citizens are becoming angry and you can see it. You can pick it up in the headlines now. And Dawn, I know you even just recently wrote in your article on Prosperity Pub regarding the French and everything that's going on there. And so it kind of seems like it's common knowledge, all of this mayhem going on, but sometimes, you know, I think we feel like we just want to put our head in the sand, right? I mean, can anybody else relate to that? So, you know, retirement accounts, the accounts are down, interest rates are up, inflation is up, and crime is up too. You know, even in my own neighborhood, we have increased burglaries, you know, at night from these well-trained people from out of the US that, you know, they come in and they're burglarizing homes, nice homes, and they're getting past the security systems. And that's very, very alarming. And, you know, sadly, there's ongoing mass shootings. We hear about those in the headlines, and even in a couple communities away from us, you know, there's a shooting every night. People are getting killed every night. And that crime rate has just skyrocketed. And maybe some of you all know about that in your own areas too. And not to mention the risk that our girls and our boys are at when they're alone at different places, you know. So how do we approach all of this volatility? How do we approach it wisely? How can we be prepared? You know, can we help to prevent it? How about that? And how can we benefit from technology while helping others to be safe and maybe be able to participate in the same benefits? So let's find out, because there is a lot of risk in the market. You all know about it. And oh yeah, it happens every day. It happened this week, right, Ken? And so that's why it's so important for you to understand whatever you are trading before you ever click a mouse, before you ever put your capital at risk. You want to have a good understanding because you can lose money. You can lose a lot of it. And that's why we come back here week after week. We share the ideas that we're using to make money, and we're trying to help you have that edge as well. So we're going to get started with that. And to do that, we've got Jack Carter, we've got Don Yoakum, and brand new guest, Jeff Muller, we're going to talk to. So who's going to share with us not only an asset that could help protect us and our loved ones, but also how we can participate in a groundbreaking small tech company. Did you catch that? Okay. I want you to catch a lot of that today. So pay attention. So, but first, let's find out about the market, and to kind of kick us off with that, Jack, let's go to you first. How would you describe what's been going on in the markets this week, the last few days?
Nonsense.
Well said. Okay, next question. No, it's true. It's true. But elaborate a little bit.
Okay, I will. Well, God,
We have
Give us a
fun.
little
We have
more,
so
Jack.
much
Come
fun.
on, man.
okay, I'll try to elaborate
Work
on
with
that.
me, come on.
You know, Fed Powell, I don't like him. He's full of nonsense. He lacks total wisdom. He's just a student of the game and really an academician or whatever you want to call that. Whenever he opens his pie hole, that's just more nonsense coming out. Everybody already knows what he's going to do. He doesn't know what he's going to do. He's the only guy that doesn't know what he's going to do. Everybody else has already factored in his rate cuts and his rate hikes and when he's going to stop. Yeah, that's a bunch of nonsense. What's not nonsense is real good leadership is showing itself in the stock market. Like, for example, the guys that run Eli Lilly, hey, that's management. Apple, that's management. Chipotle Mexican Grill, that run they had, that's all management. So there's some guys that are going to lead stocks higher. It's not so much the company or the industry or the business. I really think that this is a parting of the guys that know how to run a company and the guys that don't know how to run a company, like SVB. Those guys don't know how to run a bank, and I just think that's you're going to see leadership in stocks. The stocks are going to lead that have good leadership.
That's exactly, I 100%.
Lilly, there's always a great example, and then other companies have terrible management, and we'll just see how that shakes out. But overall, I love the volatility. When it's down 355 points one day and up 400 points the next day, the market doesn't know if it's on foot or on horseback. But I love that volatility because that all drives up option prices, and that's my game, selling option premium. So
Excellent.
I'm loving it. It could be as nonsensical. This last week was the first week in maybe a year that I just totally stopped reading the paper. I like Barron's. I couldn't believe I was reading the same paper. One article says we're expecting a 25% crash in the S&P 500, and you turn the page and some other guy saying the S&P 500 is going to retest its highs. I'll take a newspaper like that, just throw it away. That's exactly in a microcosm the kind of nonsense and noise that's coming out of every outlet, whether it's a mouth or a newspaper or whatever, and they don't know. It's just. We're right where we were on like January 6th. That's another thing. We got the choppy sideways market that just could be choppy and sideways for the end of the year.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Dawn, what are your thoughts? Is there any hope for Americans or traders? What do you think?
Wow, okay, so the Americans part, that's a big question, right? Traders, there always is, right? I mean, that's if people that are traders to the bone, I mean, this is you throw anything their way, and then that's exactly what they do, right? They adapt, they're nimble. So this is the perfect type of environment for that. It's not some kind of it's a breakdown of massive central tendencies, right? And so that disarray is plays into traders' hands. To what you're talking about and what we talked a little bit about before, and the article you referenced, right? I mean, for Americans, and I just see that Jeff's either maybe a former Fed or a current Fed, so forgive me.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah,
It's gonna be good.
Here we go.
Yeah.
All right. No,
I'm for so you can say whatever you want.
okay, all right, great. You're retired, right? Okay.
Sounds good.
All right.
Right.
So, I think there's hope for individuals, right? In the same way, and to keep this somewhat focused on the stock market, right? I mean, corporations are not countries, right? And this is exactly what Jack was referencing, right? There are opportunities for individuals, and individuals comprise the corporations, right? To make a difference, to innovate, to plan for the future, to adapt to changes and that sort of thing. And they're not beholden to receiving dollars or anything else, right? I mean, they can accept whatever currency they want in exchange for the goods and services they provide, right? So it's a matter of adaptation, and the less you try to control that process, right, which is the flip side of that coin, the less the political centers of power try to control that process and maintain the status quo, the more quickly it can adapt, right? But them fighting that is, I think, is ultimately the problem. The couple issues, is certainly capital constraints, right? We've been in a capital flush environment for 40 years. And capital is easy and cheap. And now we're starting to see the consequences of capital leaving the system, capital moving from banks where it's highly leveraged and a lot of velocity and moving into money market funds, right? Where it doesn't have that multiplying effect. And so, and that capital was fake to begin with, right? So companies that require a lot of capital are going to have a hard time to adapt, right, and to make keep pace with the changes and deliver whatever products and services they need. But the interesting thing about many tech companies, especially that just rely on code, they're very capital light, right? They don't require a lot of capital. That was the truly distinguishing feature. Over the last 10 years, all these when companies stopped having to support their own server bases and moved to the cloud, and you got offloaded data centers, and now you can just kind of pay everything as a fee for a service. The capital requirement to launch that company went from 10, 50, 100 million, $1 billion to $20 million, $5 million. I mean, certainly there's plenty of success stories of $100 million or less, right? Of companies that turned into unicorns on less than $1 million worth of capital, right? So those are the kind of opportunities that are going to continue to present themselves, right? It's not like the whole world collectively forgets how to program or code, or AI is going to end up doing a lot of it anyway. But yeah, there's hope, but good Lord, please don't expect it to look exactly like the past. Don't expect it to be easy. It's not going to be a straight line, right? But for people that got their head on the swivel and can adapt, then yeah, you should be all right.
Yeah. Well, that's our audience. We've got our heads on right, and we just keep fine tuning all of that. So it's why we love to bring these pros on every week. Ask the Pros. So we're really glad too. We've got Jeff. I'm really glad that you're here as well. And so for such a time as this, because our audience is going to begin to understand how valuable and timely today's session is. And so, but before we go into that too much, Jeff, tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Yeah, thanks, Celeste, and thanks to Jack and Don for the nice lead-in to a company such as ours. My background, my professional career started as a U.S. naval officer. I focused on weapons and engineering, spent a lot of time out to sea, and then did a shore tour at the U.S. Naval Academy. And I got out of the military, went straight into the FBI. So I spent just shy of 22 years working in the FBI. The early days, I was working violent crimes in Chicago, was a SWAT team operator, a sniper, all the things you can do when you're young and your knees are still good. I then moved into counterterrorism, as most of us did after 9/11. And shortly after that, I started focusing on weapons of mass destruction and, even more importantly, critical infrastructure protection. So our director decided he wanted to develop a full directorate to focus on those areas due to the threats. That got me really into working with all, at the time, 18 sectors of the U.S. critical infrastructure. So all industries, small to large. We would help them identify concerns to their facility or their supply chain. And then we would help develop solutions using what we would call best-in-class technologies, right? So it could be a multi-layered system to help them stop whatever the threat was and what their vulnerabilities were. Soon after that, in 2008, I founded the same program, but for Interpol. So I started working internationally, running that program out of Washington for a number of years, and then went over to Lyon, which is the Interpol headquarters in Lyon, France, and ran that program as the director for a number of years. And we introduced the same concept that we had perfected here to about 155 countries around the world. And soon after that, when I came back, I retired in 2016. I started up a global security company, heavily focused, as you could imagine, on the same type of work, where we continue to do that same type of work, and in about 35 to 40 countries a year right now for various U.S. government organizations, large industry, international organizations. And shortly after that, I I partnered up with a software provider that we felt had some of the best technology available for developing algorithms. And we developed a solution that could use cameras, basically make dumb cameras smart, and could utilize these algorithms as software to be able to give us an advantage, not only law enforcement, but average citizens, right? Give them better situational awareness in a market. And so that was the birth of Radar USA.
Excellent. Oh, wow. And like Todd's typed in, like, how old is this guy? I think Jeff has to be like 200 years old, because that's a significant amount of a background, right? I mean, you all heard it, and we were all getting it at the same time, right, Don and Jack?
Yeah.
And this is quite impressive, super impressive, and could be the reason that Jeff doesn't have his camera on is not because of being, FBI, but maybe because he's helping us to hear him better, because there was maybe a little bit of sound problem there. So bear with us.
Oh, we can see him, Celeste. He's just on one of the other screens. I think he's got a couple of them open. So that's what
he's
see.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, scratch that. Go back. Scratch.
He's a good-looking guy, man. I mean, shave your head, Jeff. Join the club.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people don't like people who have hair on this program. I don't know.
Celeste, mind if I ask him a question or two?
Go right ahead.
Please. Yeah. So Jeff, it's certainly a really deep background, and I mean, getting that situational awareness, that's kind of the key. Could you, like, in broad strokes, I mean, what kind of situational, how does your technology kind of help us develop that situational awareness? Like me, like, let's say, I'm here, looks like I'm in a bunker, but it's just my basement. That's so how do I get the that kind of situational awareness with the solution that you're talking about?
Yeah, so what we developed was I call it a full spectrum solution. So there's a lot of providers out there, single solution providers, right? What we've done with our background and working with technologists is we have from the far left, I'll start there. We have a citizen empowerment app, I call it. So it's an app on a phone that, it does everything from, it has a distress button. So let's say, a student is walking late night from the library back to their dorm. They're not anywhere near one of the blue light specials, I call them, where they're every 200 yards apart or farther on a university grounds, and somebody approaches them. What we enable, our app enables them to hit a distress button that can be immediately sent to the security personnel to identify within a meter, within a second, where that individual is and respond to that distress. If we're integrated also with their cameras, we can the security personnel can see what's happening, right? And I'll get to why that's important a little bit, but that's the beginning part of it. The citizens can also share community information, right? And there are other systems
so
that
it's
do that part.
It's like a neighborhood watch application, right? That's a social app for neighborhood watch.
That part is, and it goes a little bit beyond that, where it allows individuals to share their camera views, to opt in, opt out. If they've enabled a network within a community or within a school or within a religious facility, they can all receive information from that. And then on the far side, what we've done is enable software, so EdgePoint software, which is really AI algorithms or machine learning algorithms. And we can make existing camera networks smart, so that if there's an individual that is in a parking lot at a retail store, a school, the minute they pull that weapon out of that vehicle, we can do a lot of things. We can set off alarms, we can auto lock doors, we can show teachers where that individual is exactly. We can show that information to responding police so they can be more effective. So we have license plate, line crossing, of course, facial recognition. So there's a lot of use cases. And again, it's a full spectrum solution, not just a single point.
Excellent. It's so much great information.
Thank
We're starting to try to unpack this for you all tonight. And what I want to be clear about too is that there are two opportunities for people to pay attention to, all of you that are in the audience. There's the opportunity to use this app. That sounds fantastic. And there's also an opportunity to get more deeply involved. This is not a public company. It is not IPOing, but it is a groundbreaking technology, the opportunity for you to get involved in. And Adam just dropped some links there in the chat. So you can go there, you can find out answers to all sorts of questions. There's some recordings, get that information. We're going to be talking about it throughout today. Let's transition a little bit over to you, Jack, because I want to say with the little bit that you have heard so far, Jack, on this, a little bit of information that you have on this. What are your thoughts about a company like this? And, talking about like potentially owning some shares of it, because like I said, it's not publicly traded yet, but full disclosure, you can get that on those websites. But how would something like this fit into your overall scheme of, making money in the markets?
This looks like it's going to get bought out. I'll take some shares out of the gate.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing that other people want to take over, Apple, somebody like that. Security is a big thing, man. I got 3 grandkids. I worry about them constantly. My own 2 boys and their fiancés and my wife. I could see everybody having this, bucks up on me. So I don't know why that is, but nobody messes with me. So I wouldn't see it from me, but as a business, I think there's going to be a lot of money to be made on this.
Yeah.
Especially if you price the app, and I'm always huge on new companies getting profitable as soon as possible. So I don't know, how's profitability look there?
Well, yeah, and we'll get into a lot of that too, as well. So, what is this something though that Jack, that you go full boat in on, or is it? How would...
Yeah, I wouldn't avoid it like the plague. I would definitely take a shot at it. Here we just got done talking about leadership at the beginning, and I've never met Jeff before, but what he has, that's leadership, that's wisdom,
That's leadership.
And so I'm betting as much on the guy as I would be on the business. That's how I look at IPOs,
Absolutely, and only with money that you could afford to lose.
Yeah, he's highly, his intelligence is unbelievable. So I think this will work.
Yeah, it's really cool. Hey, we do have a video that Adam has that he can just play for us real quick. It's about 3 minutes, and that might help also to answer a lot of questions for people. And while Adam is doing that, I'll just answer a couple of questions there too. There is no ticker, Cyrus, because this is not a publicly traded company. This is groundbreaking small tech. And when you go to those links, you're going to find out how you can get involved. But let's go ahead and listen to this.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of...
This is CNN Breaking News.
I'm Brianna Keeler. Wolf Blitzer is on assignment. You're in the Situation Room, and we're following multiple breaking stories, including a tense situation in Illinois where officials say at least 4 officers and multiple civilians have been struck by gunfire.
How can we take back the American dream? The answer is in the palm of your hands. Your phone, the internet, advanced artificial intelligence software, all in one platform. It's called Radar USA. Former FBI Regional Director and Interpol Counterterrorism Chief, and now a security consultant for Fortune 100 companies and governments worldwide, CEO Jeffrey Muller talks about the merits of Radar.
The time is now. We cannot afford to wait for reforms. Having spent 35 years in law enforcement and global security, I can assure you that the technology exists today to help secure our schools and save children's lives. This is why I became the CEO of Radar USA. These technologies offer a full spectrum solution that can identify a weapon and trigger an alert to lock down a building perimeter and inform 911 of a potential threat. An app on your phone that has a panic button tied to internal cameras that can be shared with law enforcement and provide better situational awareness for police monitoring the shooter's location should they breach the perimeter, and for teachers and students so they can safely evacuate the building away from the threat.
On our platform, we integrate real-time data from private and public security cameras, thermal cameras, home alarm systems, and recording devices. We then add artificial intelligence and analytics functionality to analyze the data that comes in. Facial recognition, license plate recognition, image and noise analysis to achieve shot detection correlations, behavior analysis, and weapon detection. The platform then connects users directly to law enforcement, sends out an SOS alert, geolocation data, and direct messages to enable a rapid response with greater situational awareness.
The technology is here today to help prevent a tragedy tomorrow. I invite you to click on the link below to learn more about Radar USA.
That's love that video. Thank you for putting all that together, all that work in there, Jeff. Let me ask you a question, Jeff. So I was reading some of your material. I read about some current events that happened in Mexico City, one of the most dangerous cities in the world. So can you tell us a little bit more specifically on that event, how your technology worked out there?
Sure. So in Mexico City and the surrounding areas, we've been deployed in we're in about 12,000 cameras now, and that's built up over the last couple of years. What we've seen in that time is a 45% reduction in crime, specifically in an area called Benito Juarez, which was one of the most dangerous suburbs or sub-cities around Mexico City. And even more interesting than that, the community feeling of safety, they do surveys every year, has gone from a low of 27% up to 72%. So, you know, the citizens are getting out now. They're out spending money, enjoying time with their families, and able to enjoy everyday life in just 2 years. So we've, you know, again, we're continuing to grow in that area. It was after we saw the impressive results there that we decided to start Radar USA and really focus all of the capabilities along with the significant background expertise that our staff has and all of our global network, and really apply that towards making American cities safer.
Excellent. Okay, so I've read also too about this whole industry. It's like a $68 billion market, if I understand things correctly. So that's a pretty big number. What is the real opportunity for growth with what you're talking about?
Well, I'm gonna look down so I don't miss any zeros, because I've got there's a lot of different ways to capture the market. If you look at the global commercial security system market, it's projected by 2027 to reach 376 billion. If you just look at home security systems, which we can fit part of our solution into that, it's about 82 billion by 2027, and just the video surveillance piece of our solution about 23.5 billion. Some of our major sectors that we work in, when you look at the total addressable market, it's huge. We work in religious facilities who are seeing significant threats, day over day, schools, universities, obviously, safe cities, homeowners associations. Most people don't realize there's about 350,000 homeowners associations within the United States. So that's a very viable market for us. And then also remote critical infrastructure. It could be everything from a construction site where they want to be able to see if anybody's coming on. Instead of having to pay security guards, they want to see if anybody is coming onto the property to steal their tools or machinery, all the way to solar fields, oil fields, those type of things. So very broad market, that we can address with different use cases.
Okay, great. So we're kind of getting excited. A lot of people are typing in, asking questions, but how is it that, everyday people can get involved with this opportunity? Because it used to be, you had to be accredited, meaning you had to have about $1 million of liquid net worth. How is it that everyday people can get involved now?
Yeah, I saw one of the questions earlier asking if it was a Reg A, and it is, in fact. So we're essentially, as you mentioned, a private company that are offering public shares, and so they can go onto the links I think we've shared. They can go to our website and go through the investor button and get to that. They can see the offering circular that we filed with the SEC, and so they can simply follow through there and get all the background information they need, and then make a decision.
Excellent. So how do you see this whole AI thing driving security advancement in all the coming years?
Well, for us, in our use cases, it's only going to make our solution more accurate, more timely, more accurate. We essentially use machine learning we're continuing our line of weapons, for example, we recognize anything new that comes onto the market. Also, when we have an internal identification of something, let's say somebody's walking in the shadows and they're carrying an umbrella, it may identify, well, we can use that. We have a human weapon recognition, so we're not sending false positives out, to our clients and to law enforcement. That's very important. So we're not wasting resources. And so we enter that back into the system. The computer vision learns, and it won't make that mistake again. So as we move forward, it's going to get these decisions more accurate for our clients.
Excellent. Let's take a couple more questions too. Jack, Don, what kind of questions would you like to ask Jeff? I know you kind of started to ask some as well, and I think you have some good questions. Jack, do you have any questions?
How's revenue look?
So we're number one, right? We're going through our raise. We are positioning some of our senior executive staff. If we had the time, I'd go over them, but former national security expertise technologists, former Big Five.
Losing some sound there. Can you all hear him?
Yeah, Jeff, I'm sorry you broke off there, buddy.
Can't hear, Jeff, we can't hear you.
Sorry.
Yeah, it sounds like a bandwidth.
There we go.
There we go. Sorry. Yes, we have partnerships that we're enabling. We do have revenue.
Okay.
We're getting
it's a bandwidth issue. Yeah.
So we're having some problems hearing Jeff, but Don, what would be questions that you would want to know from Jeff, just so we kind of have some ideas if we can get Jeff back?
Well, I think I think what I'll just kind of comment on the application, right? I mean, so it's it's a bottom-up solution, right? So these are the kind of solutions that exactly what I was talking about, right? And you talk about those riots in France, and I assume almost everybody is somewhat familiar with my argument that there's far too much centralization, and what we have is a process as I'm unwinding that, right? And so solutions are becoming much more local, right? There are, you ask about America, right? I mean there is this return to local concerns, right? When somebody walks into Nashville high school or a grade school, an elementary school, and shoots it up, everybody starts thinking, okay, how do I bring this back down, right? You can't call the feds to handle that kind of problem. There's no one sweeping arching situation, and bottom up solutions like this, help people build neighborhoods, build stronger communities. And that's what we're talking about. It's stronger communities, safer communities, communities that prioritize the individual, right? Those are the things that the markets are going to gravitate toward, right? Those are the market solutions for the federal problems that we have today, right? And this plays right in line with that, right? There's certainly, I'm sure there's plenty of other competitors out there, and that sort of thing, but it's the it's the fact that it's heading in the right direction. It's a bottom-up voluntary thing, right? He's not pitching the federal government to put this on everybody's porch so that the FBI can monitor, your neighborhood, right? I mean, these are case by case, bottom-up solutions. Whether they're businesses, schools, neighborhoods. I mean, that example in Mexico City, outside of Mexico City, is a fantastic example, right? You just have a little bit of intelligence and certainly the awareness that you're being watched, right? I mean, somebody comes creeping into your neighborhood, that raises the security for everybody all at once, right? And then all of a sudden, everybody feels a lot more free to do the things that they want. So, I mean, those are my observations on it.
I think well said. I love that market solutions. That kind of piggybacks too on what you were talking about, Jack, about just the real leadership is what, that's why certain stocks are going up, because they have solutions for people for different problems. And this is a major one. And I don't know, Jeff, if your mic's working so much now, but maybe let's give it another try, and any other comments that you'd like to make.
Sure. Celeste, how do you hear me now? Am I okay?
Keep going. Yep.
Great. Yeah, I think piggybacking off of what Don mentioned, one of our biggest differentiators for our company is the fact that we have national security experts, law enforcement experts who understand the use cases, have been involved in security, continue to be involved in security around the world, not only in the US. And we're able to work with the technologists to be able to make sure that we can customize their technology so that it's most effective, right? It's not engineers and technologists trying to sell into a market they don't understand. So we've merged the two. It's critical that we have the piece that really enables a community, a citizen, to be able to protect themselves, their family, their community, and get better situational awareness. And I know we talked a little bit about the school example, but let's say there is an individual that using the Parkland example or any school examples where an individual was not supposed to be on the school grounds, they had been expelled for whatever reason, or an individual shows up and we can send that information immediately to all the teachers in the school. We can send it obviously at the same time to law enforcement. We can enable locking of the doors, alarms to go off. And for me, the teacher being able to get a map overview of the school and see a picture of the individual, instead of just locking a flimsy wooden door, they can evacuate their class away from the threat, right? So, and you make that case in a retail store where we see all these shootings as well. But really, for me, it's about empowering citizens with information so they can not become a victim.
Excellent. Great. Well, we're going to keep Jeff on the line here, keep the conversation going. Let's switch back and forth here a little bit. Let's go back to the market. And Jack, I want to come back to you and ask you a question, because you have a way of, for our audience, week after week, they love your just calm view and a calm approach to the market and just extrapolating money out, because we have to put food on the table. We have to make a living. What in this volatile market, in these economic conditions, safety, different things, what is your favorite way right now approaching May to make money?
It's a really good question. And my way now is the same way for 11 years. I love credit spreads. And just to give you an example, I don't know where CMG is today. Where is it? 2000 something, Don? Anyway, I have a short. I shorted the 1955 put and bought the 1950 put as a hedge. So when I sell that 1955 put, that thing is so far out of the money, it's almost comical, and it ends today. And just the premium you can get paid with these premium option strategies, it just blows my mind. And the more volatility increases, the more what I would have got paid, months ago, it's even more now. So I love that strategy. I just absolutely love it. It's my number one thing, and that's what I do.
And just do it over and over, and it just kind of gets boring. But it's like, so you can have that same approach in these volatile markets by, again, how do you decide which stock you're going to play that type of a strategy on?
Okay, so I always use what I call a market-driven strategy approach, I should say. So I first look at the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, and the QQQ. And if that's bullish, then I'm going to set up a bear call, a bull put spread on something. And if the market's bearish, then I'm going to use a bear call spread approach on that. So if the market's doing its thing, let's say it's bullish, a little bit bullish, like maybe, then I want to find a stock that's even more bullish than the broad market and has a little bit of volatility, like a beta over 1, for example. And
Nice.
then see how far deep out of the money I can create a credit spread on a stock that's rising, right? When I'm way, way, way below the market. And as the days go through the week, the stock goes higher. And like right now, I mean, this is a dream trade for me to be this far out of the money on CMG and, getting paid up front Tuesday to put that trade on. It expires today when the market closes, and this has been working for me for 11 years through every market condition. So that's my number one and favorite way to do it.
There's a lot of juicy content that Jeff just shared, or that Jack just shared. And if you didn't catch it all, you definitely want to go back to the recording, because I'm telling you, I know there's a lot of golden tidbits in there. So go back and listen to that. Every word that he said, he's not a fluffy kind of guy. I mean, just look at his hair, right? So go back and get those details, and I think they're going to make a difference in your trading. They make a difference in my trading. So very well said. Let's switch over to you, Don. And, I know that like this whole economic turmoil, civil unrest is a lot of things that you've been talking about. Like I mentioned, you wrote about it recently, happening in France and so forth. Why are you thinking the way that you're thinking? I mean, and the reason I started out with that question is because we've been talking about this, on Ask the Pros, we've been talking on Roundtable, various conversations about all of this turmoil and the disconnect between like the Fed and the interest rate market and the equity market. Why are you thinking the way that you're thinking?
Because let's see, I started my relationship or my trip down this journey 15 years ago. Right, when the Federal Reserve started all those public-private investment funds, and it absolutely abolished any moral hazard, any sense of risk, shifted all the burden onto the public, all of that. I've gone through the 5 stages of grief. Right, I actually used to believe this crap, and I don't believe it anymore. So I don't believe it anymore. I don't, and it took me a long, long time. I was angry, denial, all that stuff right there. But now I'm like, all right. So a lot of people are just not catching up. I read what I read now is stuff I was saying 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and that takes a long time. It's hard. And what the tendency for most people is going to be to dismiss it, right? Yeah. Oh, politician. Oh, the Fed. Whatever, to dismiss all of this evidence around you, right? And I'm just trying to say, no, please just pay attention, hold more than one thought in your head at once, and then try to balance the equation, right? And I mean, it's like on the banking side, right? So here's the charade that is getting hoisted upon the American populace right now, right? And everybody's worried, are my deposits going to be okay? Do I have to move my money out of the bank? Well, here's the bad news. Your deposits are totally fine. They're 100%. They are going to get guaranteed. If worse comes to worse, they will bail out the entire system. And that is going to be a horrible, horrible solution for the dollar, for the American people, for civil unrest, for everything, right? Because when people have, what is it? I've heard this before. When people have nothing left to lose, they lose it, right? And those are all symptoms of the same underlying cause, right? It was a system that was designed to centralize everything, totally U.S. and Western centric, built on the back of, a dollar, petrodollar reserve currency system that just was an advantage, and it got absolutely, totally abused, starting right after 9/11, 100%, right? That system has just gone in overdrive, and you've got more and more and more and more, right? So what I'm trying to say is that, look, don't feel like, okay, it's all gone, it's all past, oh my gosh, I'm just going to go. There's solutions out there. There's things you need to do. You need to be active. You don't sit down you don't go in your hole and hide away, right? There's ways to trade. There's investments to make. There's life to be lived, right? But it's going to look very different, right? And just don't, you can't trust the system or the architects of that system in order to manage this process. 100%, you can't do it. And that's my big overall caution, right? There's lots of opportunity, but Jesus Christ, just watch your back.
Yeah, perfect. Great segue into what we've been talking about too with that Radar USA. And just a reminder, everybody, you can go to that link there that's posted in the chat and make sure you find out more about how you can get involved there as well. But you said something there, Don. You said, there is life to be lived, and that's why we're here. We have to live life. We don't get to choose the circumstances, but we can choose how we live in those circumstances. So how are you positioning yourself in the short term when it comes to trading the markets?
I'm just staying light, right? I mean, I got a lot of dry powder, if I see an opportunity, I try to take it. I mean, we've been in the sideways market, so I've pulled way back from what I was doing last year, right? I mean, there's just this sideways churn is just brutal for the way I trade, right? It's hard for a lot of really active traders, right? Jack just prints money. He's got it, right? Me, I kind of look at these opportunities and it's starting to turn again. I'm seeing directional trades come around, but I tell you what, the last 6 months, almost a year, it's been just this massive compression around this center, and it's like this. So you know how to predict. There's one way to predict a heart attack. You know what that is when the variability in between your heart rates goes down, when there's almost no variability, when it just becomes static, when there's almost a very highly predictable, very stable set of spaces between each heartbeat. That means heart attack's coming, right? And another way to see, that's what you see with the market, right? It's just, you saw this in 2008, right? You see this little go, and that is a system, that is this highly reliable indication of a very unstable system, because it's about to break one way or the other.
Yeah, about to break one way or the other. That's for sure.
Yeah, and even breaking up isn't necessarily a good thing, right? I mean, it could be if the Fed reverts, if they pivot, if they start cutting rates, market's going to go past 4,000. And Zimbabwe had a 2,000% return for their last time they spend the dollars. The stock market can go gangbusters, and if the currency isn't keeping up, if it's a result of the currency getting devalued, well then you end up no better off.
Yeah, well, it goes back again to leadership, lack of it, or good leadership. You go long the good stocks and you short the bad ones. And
here's a sign, Celeste, real quick. I know you probably want it, but here's a sign. Here's a sign of optimism, but how nuts it is. Robert Kennedy, a Democrat, is saying free market capitalism is the best way to save the environment. Free market capitalism is not what we have in the United States. It is crony capitalism, right? And that is the system I need to break down. Now, he will never get nominated. They're not going to allow that. They're not going to let him on camera. There's no way he's going to get anywhere close to the office, right? But he's saying the things that you need to say. I mean, there was a politician in Florida that said, hey, why don't we put every law up to a vote every 4 years? And if we don't like it, we get rid of it. That's what the Vikings used to do. And they're like, no way, you're going to touch with Social Security, because everybody has their sacred cow, and you can't touch that sacred cow, even if it's dragging you down. So, but those are signs of hope. I like that.
Well, and I like what you said too, Don, about, you used to, you would believe things, you get angry, and now you just don't believe it. And I think that's kind of sometimes where we come to as traders, right? We don't necessarily believe the headlines. We trade the price action. That's what Jack's talking about. That's what you're talking about. You trade it up, you trade it down. And so cool opportunities. I want to come back again to this Radar USA, and I want to explain things, because I skipped over this a little bit, and Jeff, you chime in, anybody else chime in as well. But when you go to that website, what you're going to find out is that you can buy shares with this company, and it's $1 a share. And again, you're not going to do anything with money that you don't want to risk. This is with risk money that you would do this with. And so you can buy those shares for $1, but the minimum investment is $1,000. So go to that website, find out that information on how you can get involved if you want to. So any other comments that y'all want to make about the Radar USA or the market today? Any questions that you all have on that while we have a few more minutes? Any comments? Don, do you have any other comments?
Well, I think if we got Jeff back on, and I saw a bunch of the questions, and I've dealt with Reg A's a lot, so I understand the structure. But just to confirm, a lot of things people want to know is because it's Regulation A, you can probably invest IRA assets in it, right? And what's the minimum investment, which I know all of this is going to be in the presentation, but these are, the minimum investment, it's $1 per share. And can IRA assets get invested in something like this? What's the answer to those?
Jeff?
Yeah. So as far as the minimum investment, I think you covered that. It's $1,000. One of the other questions I saw was, and Jack touched on it, I think there's a good likelihood, we're going to build the company as fast as we absolutely can. The demand is incredible out there. We need to be able to raise the capital, to have the structure, to be able to meet the demand, which isn't a bad problem to have. Honestly, we've got the right partnerships all the way up to big 5 tech companies that are supporting us. We have global integrators. I think there's a good likelihood that, right in the security market globally, there's really 3 big companies. They range from about $7.5 billion to $38 billion in market cap. There's a great likelihood, like Jack said, that they're going to look at us. There's, the push right now in the market is to go from the traditional guns, guards, and gates to using technology to make more effective solutions, right? So you're not paying so much for that. When one security guard watches 50 cameras, they're 4% effective, right? There's been many studies done. So what we do is allow you to have one security guard to watch 300 cameras, and we proactively send the information on the alerts that you want to that guard. So I think there's a good likelihood that as we progress.
Okay, we kind of lost sound there again as well, but let me, answer some of those questions too, progressing and raising the money now to really get this out there, and the way that you can learn more and get involved. And Adam, do you mind just go ahead and dump that link in there in the chat again? So Hartley, you can see that there, everybody that's wanting to see that. That's where you're going to go and get all the information. Again, I'm so excited about this, aren't y'all? That ways to protect your loved ones, and also ways for you as traders to get involved in a groundbreaking opportunity. So, and there's no speculation, Dennis, this is risk capital. There is no projection, in my opinion. I'm just telling, opinions are free, right? This is money that you could afford to lose, because we don't know the future. Absolutely don't know the future. It's just like a trade. Hey, we're showing you what we've done in the past. Like Jeffrey has talked to you about what he has done in the past. He has his past track record, and we're saying, hey, I'm looking at him like, man, this is a great leader. I want to follow that. Just like I told you about Eli Lilly, and like I told you about GE. Do you remember that? Yeah. So this is what we're talking about, getting involved there. But you don't know what it's going to turn into, because like Eli Lilly, for example, everybody's hyped up about what some of these drugs can do. Well, guess what? They're just a test away, or they're just a failure away of that stock dumping to this is risky. So, but that's the way you have to look at it. Sorry, I got on my little soapbox there a little bit, but hey, there are a couple other questions, like briefly, I'm going to ask you this, Jack. I'm going to ask you, if you could just recap how you looked at CMG again. And then Dawn, if you can tell us what you're thinking about cryptos right now, and then we'll see if we have Jack back, or Jeff back as well. Go ahead, Jack.
Thank you. What I saw in CMG that made me want to make a move on it.
Yeah, they just wanted you to recap that.
It's just a really, I think it was making a new high. I like that. I like when stocks make a new high. And it was right before earnings, and the stock really jumped right after earnings. I just had a good intuition that it was going to do that. But the thing about my strategy is the price of the stock does not matter, because the only thing that matters is the difference in strike prices. That determines how much capital is required. So everything's fair game in my world, of any price, any stock. And I just like the direction CMG was going. And then after the earnings came out, I'll tend to go back to the well several times on the same stock. I do it every Tuesday for Friday. And if I have a successful trade on CMG, like back before, we were at 1,600 at some of these puts, and the stock has just been ripping since then. So that's what I like about it. I like it's got a great volatility. It's in a great trend. And most importantly, not all stocks have great options pricing. Some stocks that are not volatile, that are just kind of trading flat all the time, you can't get an options trade in there. So CMG just checks all the boxes for me. It got great volatility. It's got great options pricing. I can't believe why anybody would make a market for a put option, for somebody to put the stock to me at 1955. That's like ridiculous. And that's what I love about it, is that you can get so far out of the money on some of these trades that, that's why I'm surf fishing almost every day, because I'm not sitting in front of the computer, staring at it. But that's what I like about CMG. But I wanted to say one thing about what Jeff's got going on. You know, trends is the biggest thing for me. Stocks in trends, just societal trends. And the trend we have is crime is going through the roof. This guy's stealing catalytic converters, but the kind of crime that rattles hundreds of thousands of people at the same time. They dread opening up their computer and seeing another school shooting. You know, so what Jeff has, it's something that everybody could be happy about. And there is a trend, and it's not going away. Our society is sick. It really is sick with what's happening. It's disgusting, and I can't even believe it when I see it. And so that trend is not continuing. You know, it's all kind of people are doing crazy stuff now, and everybody wants to feel better and see a solution. So I see a lot of people rallying around what Jeff's going to try to do. But I just think when companies have such a massive edge like he has, someone's going to buy it out and offer him too much money, you know, to say no. So, and that's okay, because the technology will still be out there and be used by the public. But I love this as a little play. You know, if you got $1,000 that you could totally risk, this is not a bad place to stick it.
Yeah. And when you click that link, you're not signing yourself up to do anything. You're just getting more information. So that's all that is. And I'm sure you'll be able to talk to people, you know, find out more about it. But yeah, all that's well said, Jack. Thank you. Dawn, what are your thoughts? You know, simple conversation, haha, on crypto.
I'll tell you what, how about the comments on what's that struck a nerve with my you talk about soapbox, you know, that's anyway, I like the soapbox.
Yeah.
The crypto, you know, so it's along it plays that theme that Jeff's solution plays, right? This is precisely what I've been saying. 15 years ago, a day I called it entropy, right? Social entropy. You've got to, you know, power is moving away from the center. Crypto was absolutely 100% Bitcoin, the very first evidence of that. And it is the decentralized solution. It is bottom up. They can try to regulate it, but they won't be able to. In the US, they're probably going to try to ban it. I mean, they are coming out, they are beating a war path down, and that's going to be near term difficult, right? But there's only, honest to God, I mean, when it comes to stuff like this, Americans need to get over themselves. We're only 350 million people, right? We're less than 5% of the global population. The adoption of crypto around the world, there are hundreds of millions of people using crypto as currency right now as a way to protect themselves from overreaching governments, right? And it is the poison pill for an overreaching state has been something that's been my tagline for crypto. So, and specifically Bitcoin, right? It is there's decentral, and it enables all kinds of decentralized bottom-up local solution as a result of that, right? It allows these networks and communities, it allows communities to come together, right? That's just it. It allows communities to come together instead of be split apart because they're arguing about what's going on, you know, in a far off place. And you know, long term, I'm very bullish on it, just like I'm on gold and silver and generally resources, although for different reasons. But this is, you know, solutions like Bitcoin in particular, you know, are absolutely part of your long-term path through everything we've been talking about. 100%.
Beautiful.
You know, the fight though with crypto, I got to tell you, it's all about deregulation. The industry itself, the coin itself, it doesn't want regulation. That's the
100%. It fights it.
What it exists for. Right? DeFi, opposite of regular fi. I don't see how anyone's going to regulate it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just it. No, it's unregulable. And unregulatable. That's right. I mean, so you may be a criminal in the United States by owning Bitcoin, right? Elizabeth Warren would want to make you a criminal to own Bitcoin, right? People are going to find a way to do it anyway, right? Yeah. And the feds can't watch everybody, right? So that's those kind of end runs, because people are going to find ways to protect themselves anyway. Those are the solutions that are going to pay off in the long term. It's just going to be some short term. It could very well be some short term pain, but you may not, right? I mean, that's because the world, Bitcoin may not care what the U.S. thinks about Bitcoin. That's what the U.S. And I keep saying feds, Jeff. I'm sure you're a super nice guy. I'm sure you got tons of integrity. Everybody's well intentioned, I don't mean any direct insults here.
Oh, that's all good. Hey, we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to come right back to you, Jeff, here to help close this up. But before we do that, I got to remind everybody that, hey, we've got Ask the Pros that's starting in 5 minutes. Jeffrey Turnmeyer is going to go with us. And just like Jack was saying, hey, if the S&P and the NASDAQ and the Dow are going up, I'm looking to the long side. If the NASDAQ, everything, they're going down, I'm looking to the short side. Well, Jeffrey Turnmeyer is going to cover that exact topic on Ask the Pros Premium. So we're going to run over there at 1:05, all of those, and you can join. Adam just dumped the link right there. You can still join that. I think it's like $9 a month. I mean, that's the best Starbucks coffee you ever had, let me tell you. But while we do that, I'm going to tell you one more thing, and then Jack, Jeff, I want to close with you here. But one more thing, you can stay here in this room. If you're not a member of the Ask the Pros Premium, we're going to replay Apple, the perfect Apple trade. You know, Michael Lamar, we've had him here on Ask the Pros. He's in high demand. He's a great guy. He has an incredible strategy. And did you see that little stock today? You know, talk about, you know, good things going on. And so that replay is going to be showing right here in this room. I highly recommend it to you. I watched it myself as well. So that's going on. But before we run over to Ask the Pros Premium, Jeff, what final words do you have for us who are interested in both securing our future and getting involved with you?
Yes, Celeste, Don, Jack, thanks a lot for the time and for having us on and being able to expose our opportunity. We're incredibly excited about growing this. Really, we're going to do it as fast as we possibly can. There's a huge demand out there. We want to save lives. We want people in the U.S. and then across the world to be able to feel safe, right? Like we've seen in the Mexico City that's been going on over the last few years, right? Everybody just wants to live their life and be able to enjoy their families and their friends. And really, that's what this is about. We're using all of our experience that we've generated over our lifetimes and the best-in-class technology to be able to make that happen. So we invite you to come along for the ride, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So thanks again for the time.
Excellent. Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for our audience for being here. Have a great rest of the day. Wonderful weekend. We'll see y'all back next week on Ask the Pros. We'll see you at Ask the Pros Premium, or you can stay right here, learn more about that Apple trading. We're going to want to hear more from Jeffrey Muller as the days progress, but you've got that link that you can find out more right now. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Celeste. You're awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, Celeste.
Thank you.